And then as we were prepping for our second deployment, that's when I ended up getting hurt. We were about 2 weeks out from the deployment, and I was standing on the back of a Stryker. I had my left arm up on the Stryker. I was standing on the hatch that comes back down, and I was talking to the squad that was inside of the back of it. And another Stryker came into park to the left of the Stryker that I was standing on the back of, and he cut that turn too tight. He had C-wire up on top of the Stryker, so he couldn't kind of see out the port. And someone was supposed to be standing up air guarding him, but no one was. And so he drove right up the back of the Stryker and ended up pinning me in between the Stryker that I was on and his Stryker that he was driving, and just like f***ed me up pretty good. Like really kind of compressed my spine a lot and rotated a bunch of my vertebrae, rotated my neck kind of the opposite way, compressed my scapulas into my shoulder blades. And so it gave me a bunch of issues in regards to like rotatability of like doing push-ups and moving some of my bones and ligaments around, and went from being like a PT stud to being like, dude, doing push-ups really hurts. And so that ended up being kind of the feather in the hat that was like, yeah, you're getting medical discharge. Yeah. And so I fought that for a little while, tried to stay in. And it just ended up being like, you could just tell they didn't want you at that point anymore. And so no matter what you would do, that you would hit like walls. And so I think I eventually got really burnt. And I was transferred to 5th Stryker and tried to stay in doing things, and it just wasn't like working out with leadership. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and start like getting ready to leave. But before I did that, I went and re-enlisted for 6 years, which was like a big you to my military leadership, because I was still in branch at the time, meaning like I was still inside of like active duty, like my unit. I was still a part of it, so I wasn't inside of the medical brigade yet, like to create my program to get out. So I was still technically an active duty soldier. And so I went and re-enlisted for 6 years, got a huge bonus, and I kind of knew that they were going to press me to get out. And then that was kind of, once they pressed me, then I got another bonus for being medical separated. Yeah. So
you made out on that one.
Yeah, I made out on that one. Yeah. But I look back on it now, and I kind of wish that I would have like fought harder to stay in, because I was a young dude, and like, you know, you're hot headed, and you also think you know the world. And I really enjoyed the military. I just didn't realize enough that I didn't enjoy the leadership that I was currently around. And I didn't understand like how to get out of it, or how to get through that path the correct way, other than like throwing my hands up and being like, "F it, let them push me out." And so that would be my big regret, I think, was like not fighting for my career hard enough.
That jacked up though. I mean, that's pretty significant though. You know, like, did you have to do surgeries at all, or?
I went through a lot of like injects, because they were trying to figure out like when you rotate my shoulders around, I get like all this heavy crunching, and so it was all the weight that was getting put on my shoulders that would compress my spine, and then it would be like, dude, I can't run. Deadlifting is like so much pain. Doing anything push-up wise or pushing upward on my scapulas was like grinding through sandpaper. So it wasn't that I was like broken bones. It was like something was wrong with the compression that the two vehicles that came in and slammed on me. My body just was not working right. And so that kind of became the push out point of like, well, if you can't PT correctly, then you can't PT test correctly, then you can't score correctly, then you can't stay in correctly. And that was kind of my tempo out.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do after that then? What year was that then?
I got out I was medically discharged in 2008. Yeah.
So it was pretty much drawdown after that for Iraq.
Yeah, like I never went to JRTC, NTC. Yeah. Like I was just straight combat.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah, straight combat. And then I got out. I was kind of lost for a little while. I rode a road bike around Los Angeles for like a year, just doing like 500 miles a week, doing anything I could, man, to just like figure out what to do. And at the time, I had a girlfriend that recommended I go and work for a shooting range, and I ended up working for LAX gun range down in Los Angeles. And at the same time, I was going through the O'Gara program with SOC to be a contractor. Sorry, Global, not SOC, Global Integrated Security. And so I went out and I was going through that whole program to kind of get a contract out in Basra because I was like, well, everyone's doing contract stuff. I guess like that should be the path for me. And so I did that, and I was on that path, and then the Basra contract ended up not getting picked up. And so that fell through. And I was still just like riding a bike around and working at a shooting range. And finally someone came in and was like, saw me shoot and were like, hey, have you ever thought of doing 3-gun or USPSA, which was competitive shooting? And I had never heard of it before. And they're like, you're really good at this. You should maybe take a look at it and see if this is something that you might be interested in. And that was kind of the entry point into like where I kind of stepped into like the defense industry and shooting and kind of taking off from there. And I did that probably consecutively for about 8 years, just traveling the country, pulling the trigger, trying to just find some sanity in my life.
So did you do a bunch of competitions? Was it like representing the company,
Yeah.
like companies, stuff like brands and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, so at the time, 3-gun is kind of like F1, I guess you could say. It's very fast. It's very showy. I was shooting for Black Rain Ordnance, Smith Optics, Vortex, Salient Arms International. Pretty high up, like as a competitive shooter once I got into it. And I was traveling the nation doing about 30 to 40 competitive shoots a year, just in a 3-gun circuit. And a 3-gun is where you shoot a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun all in the same event, or all in the same stage. And you have 9 stages, and it's all about speed, accuracy, and fluid movement through the course. And that's all I did, man, was shoot like hundreds of thousands of rounds every year. Just
Any highlights from that? Any good competition stories?
The only one that, that really I would say is a highlight would be I shot around a lot of really good people. Jerry McCulloch, Daniel Horner, just all these guys that were like kind of icons when you start looking now at the industry, and they all a lot of them came from like the Army AMU. So they were really kind of big dudes that I looked up to. And it made me a much better shooter. That I think turned into teaching me how to be a better instructor or be a better end user of the rifle. When you're in the Army, you understand like your basics, I guess you would say, of like your zero, your distance, how to clean the gun. When I started competitively shooting, I was like, oh, I'm deadly. Like I'm scary now. Like it elevated that knowledge so much more. That then I think when you translate the competitive side of it into a combat side of it, you turn the end user into a much more a deadly asset. So that would be the biggest highlight for me out of it. Other than that, it was just fun, man. I mean, you're just traveling around shooting guns and hanging out with people and creating a good community. It's just like racing.
Yeah. So like I said, you did that for 8 years then. So then, like I said, it was good money, fun time, or is it just kind of like,
No money.
No money?
No money.
No money?
No money.
Just really good times.
Just good times, man.
Yeah.
You get some sponsorship money here or there. Like the biggest thing was like, being in it was less fun than what I expected it to. It was like, I think it's like anything, right? You go through like the Division 4, Division 3, Division 2, all that's fun. And then you get to your like the pro level and it's like, hey man, you not only do you need to do all of these events, still maintain the shooting tempo and practice level of what you're doing and what's gotten you to this point. Oh, but by the way, now you have to hit every single Bass Pro Shop and every Cabela's and do a pop-up and talk to the consumer and sell the product. Oh, and all you have to do every single trade show. You have to be in the bus and go around the nation and stop at military bases. And so you become this like persona, right, that represents these brands, which ended up helping connect me into the industry of what I do today. But that's like the not fun side of it, I think. Like everyone's like, oh, dude, I'd love to be doing what you're doing. And you're like, dude, no, it's not as much fun as you think it is, man. Like,
I know. It's like everybody does like even like podcasts or social media, like it's actually a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like, trust me, my family hates me. You don't want to be me. It's like...
So what do you do from there then? I know you foray into the business or whatever. But was that a little bit after, or was that during?
That was a little after.
Okay.
Yeah. That the competitive shooting helped me segue into running like my own business, making Glock barrels.
That's what. Yeah. Glock, yeah. We talked about that.
So
I
I ran a company called S3F Solutions for a long time, maybe about 10 years. And we were one of the largest Glock manufacturing barrel companies inside of the United States for quite a while. We made a lot of product for other companies, and then most people knew us for our own brand, which was the Accurized Glock barrels. And so that took off. We had, everyone from Shane Coley, who was a team captain of Glock, was like shooting our barrels. We had huge organizations like Agency Arms that were running our name on side of their platforms to cross market with us. And that really kind of was a segue into blowing up the, like learning about the defense industry for me. I worked in it, shot in it, and that was really kind of the big growth moment for me, that it's like, oh, okay, this isn't just competitively shooting. Like there's the actual sales side of it, or the inside workings of the defense industry, that I started to learn, and I really started to love. And I did that for about 10 years until the competitive nature of everything just became so large. You know, people saw that, oh, well, if Chris can do it, I can do it too. And so I think after about like 8 or 9 years, there was everyone and their mom was making Glock barrels and M&P barrels and CZ barrels.
It's a saturated market.
Yeah, it became very saturated, and there wasn't a lot of people that were actually manufacturing them. You know, it's all white labeled, which a lot of it ended up coming through the same shop that I was making my barrels and also was the director of growth for. So it was like, okay, well, not only am I competing with all these other brands, I'm making 80% of the other brands as well. And so it just became kind of like more of a stress for me to continue to run my business. And I shut that down, went back to school. And then that's kind of when X kind of gave me a call about like a tap on the shoulder of, hey, maybe step out of the defense industry and come play in for a little bit.
How'd that go? What was like you said, the origin story of all that too, you know?
Yeah, man, I had met Xzhibit, aka Pimp My Ride.
Yep. We all know him. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty big. He was a big rapper. He's a big rapper.
Yeah.
He's in the Dre camp. He just launched his new album, and then the MTV, that a lot of people don't know, Pimp My Ride was the biggest show for MTV.
Well, his music too. I mean, like we grew up in the late '90s, 2000s. Xzibit was there.
Busta
He was
Rhymes, Xzibit, like Snoop Dogg,
all those
like,
big dogs. They were huge. Yeah. They were huge. Yeah.
So he's definitely an OG on that, and we had met just randomly through Instagram, to be honest. At the time, I was working for Agency Arms as their operation manager. And I had gone down to do a vehicle interdiction class where we were teaching guys how to shoot around vehicles, what areas would stop projectiles and things like that. And he had seen the video and reshared it on his page and was like, holy shit, this is awesome. X's father is a former Marine. So he's also one of the only rappers that had gone on the USO tour to deploy and perform for troops. So he kind of had this like connectivity already to troops and like thankfulness to troops, and he was a big gun dude. And so he had reached out and saw that, and when he reshared it, I just messaged him back, and I was like, dude, I love your music, grew up on it. If there's anything I could ever do to help or support you, I'd love to build a relationship. The very next day, he was in Dubai, and someone tried breaking into his then wife's establishment in, I think it was Chatsworth, is where he was living. And he messaged me back, and he was like, hey, I think I want to take you up on that. And that kind of like started the relationship. We decided to meet a couple of months, like a month or two later, when he got back from Dubai. And I think we met at fucking like a Red Robin, or like it was the most basic thing like that you would ever, or like an Applebee's or something. And I walked up, he's sitting at the fucking bar eating like plain salmon and rice parfait, and I'm like, you X, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And that's just what he liked, man. He liked going to this one bar that was around his house. He could drink tequila. Everyone left him alone. And I knew that was probably like 8 to 6 years before I became a CEO. And so we maintained this little relationship. I ended up going over and meeting his grandma and like spending Thanksgivings with him. And fast forward to when he ended up creating a cannabis company called Napalm, and he named that in Napalm for two reasons. One, to give respect to an album that he had already created called Napalm, and he used the same exact font. And also because his dad had, I think if I remember correctly, was in Vietnam and was a Marine. And so he wanted to kind of tie these two things in, and everything in the brand Napalm Cannabis was military and law enforcement focused. So like all of our vape carts were called like Tomahawk and Javelin and the B-52, and like it was all very, very military focused. TMZ picked it up, and they were like, oh, Napalm. Oh man. Asians.
Oh yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah. God, burning it down. Yeah. And they ran this like huge thing saying that it was extremely anti-veteran, and that he hated the vets and that he hated the Asiatic Pacific culture because of napalm. And X was trying to kind of like, I guess, like put water on the fire of like not blowing it up, not trying to make it bigger. And it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. And I got this random call from X, and he was like, hey man, my current CEO I got from the tech industry, and he knows how to run business, but he doesn't want to run anything of what we're doing, and he doesn't like the heat that's going on, and I need someone that can come in and help run this company. And so I ended up accepting a position with him, initially to be the operation manager for Napalm. And when I went out there to go and do an interview with him, the CEO up and quit that day. And so it ended up being an operation manager position that turned into a CEO position, to take over, control the image of the company and grow the brand. And so I accepted that and moved out to California. And that was like the craziest year of like anything I had ever stepped into. And my wife was like not ready for it. Like, oh, she's an old, she's like an old soul from PA. And I grew up in LA, and like, within 24 hours, we're driving Ferraris, going to fucking huge concerts with X and buying 1,000 pounds of, like, she had never, it was way too much. Like, way too much.
I'll stay at home, watch Netflix the next.
Yeah, she was not like, she's like, I don't want all this attention. And I'm like, I love it. I'm like, let's do this. So that was a trip, man, a whole different business aspect than I've ever had been in.